Hello everyone, I'm Shravani Ramaya, your host at OTHRA.
Today's guest is someone working at a fascinating intersection of mathematics, ecology, and real world problem solving. Here we have Dr. Prerna Singh, mathematician and evolutionary modeling scientist, currently working at Berlin after completing her research in Princeton. Prerna Singh, welcome to the show. Keeping aside all your titles, who is Prerna in your own words?
Hi, Shravani. Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. And thank you so much for inviting me. It's a great starting question that what am I beyond my degrees and my qualification? I think that all of us, everybody is so much more beyond what they achieve, what they are doing, what their degrees and qualifications are. Same is with me. Just think that I'm a lifelong learner. I'm just trying to learn every day about myself, trying to get to know me, trying to make myself a better version of me. So you can just call me somebody who's trying to make her way through life, trying to understand what life is and how it can be made the best. Yeah, and I'm constantly trying to understand how I can add value to everybody around me.
Awesome. That's a very good message as well. So it's a great way of continuously improving ourselves by learning new things and gaining knowledge from everything that is motivating us. So that's nice. Now let me ask you a question about how did you start off? Like, what was your childhood like back in UP when you started off? What was education like? What was the culture like? What was your experience, childhood experience? Let's start from there.
Yeah, sure. How I began. So I think in the childhood, I had a challenging childhood, and there were difficulties around that time in my teenage and in my childhood. But I think it also made me the person that I am today. So I'm really grateful for every challenge that I experienced, and everything was perfect to shape me in my version I am now. And it was like I come from a small town in India, in the UP. It was interesting, but it was just an ordinary life, nothing much going on in that small town. And I'm glad to be born in a family which considered studies very important. So that was always a priority in my family. And especially my sister, she made sure that I study very hard. So that shaped my foundation. Like I became a bit ambitious that I did not know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I want to do good things in life, and at least in career, I want to be my best.
Okay. So you told your sister motivated you and then you did not have a clarity. So what is that one turning point which helped you gain the clarity and get into um, a conscious understanding about what you want to become to where you are right now? So what is the turning point you think of?
Well, to be honest, until especially when I was in the school, I had no idea that I was going to do a PhD or I was going to into research. The only thing I had a very limited guidance, and yeah, so it was difficult for me to like understand at that time like what I want to do in life. I At one point I wanted to become an air hostess, and so it was just like childish kind of desires. Maybe I'll become a doctor, maybe I'll become a teacher, maybe I'll be air hostess. So I had different thoughts about what I want to become. And then about when I was in class 10th, then I actually started taking my studies more seriously. Before that, I was not studying that like hard. But since the beginning of class 10th, I started studying a lot. And then the only thing that I knew that I was going to do a bachelor's degree from a good place. And then that's all.
Most of us end up doing
Yeah.
the traditional path of okay, what parents say, what we hear from people, and then start moving forward from there. If I actually look at your journey, so what kind of challenges did you face there? How did you enter into IIT Madras firstly?
My bachelor's I did in Miranda House at Delhi University. And I chose mathematics that time because, yeah, I was interested in all science subjects actually, but math felt a bit more comfortable. Even in mathematics, I had no big preference that I would want to make a career in maths. It's just something I decided out of normal interest in the subject. So when I was at the end of my bachelor's, I knew that I liked studying, and I knew that I will continue to do a master's in the same subject. And in my final year, I found out that you can do a master's at IITs, and you have to clear an exam. It's called IIT JAM for that. So yeah, I was living in Delhi. I was lucky to get the right guidance, the right kind of coaching and academic material to prepare for that. Yeah, I tried my best that time for several months, and my aim was just to do my master's from the best place as possible for me. So I cleared it, and then I got into IIT Madras for my master's in mathematics.
Okay. So, did you face any real challenges while you were preparing for IIT Madras? Because getting in there is also a huge achievement, I would say.
Yeah, actually, that was the first big exam that I prepared for. I did not know like how one should prepare for a competitive exam. So I just started studying. Like I joined one coaching, but mostly preparation I did on my own. But I got the right materials, and from that, I just started studying, and I don't recommend it because that made me actually very stressed. I used to get headache almost every day. I remember for like 1 or 2 months, I was getting headache very, very frequently. Became a bit unhealthy, but even when I was sitting in my exam, I took like 2 painkillers and then I was writing my exam and I was so extremely stressed. And I was that stressed that my exam could have gone worse because of how much anxiety I was living in. I did not need to even study that much, but I was just lucky that I did not ruin it because of my anxiety. These were the challenges I faced, that I did not know that you have to balance your health and sleep, especially while studying. You cannot just push yourself to your limits and, decline your health for exam.
So, when did you actually think about abroad education? What made you decide going abroad? You did your PhD from UK. So, tell us about that journey.
Yeah, sure. Actually, after my master's, like when I was at the end of my master's, I knew that I love studying, and then saw that people are doing PhD, and it's like you can do what you like. So I liked studying, so I could do that, and you get paid to study, do some research, and I was interested in a few topics that I wanted to learn more about. So I thought PhD would be the right thing for me to do. So after my master's, I did not think about going abroad actually. So I started preparing for national level exams like JRF, GATE to get a PhD in India. And then I got a PhD in one Indian institution. It's called IIT some time back. And when I joined there, after a few months, I started feeling that I want to move to a better place. I was not happy with the academic and research facilities there. And I knew that I was going to spend about 5 years in a PhD. So I thought that if I'm going to spend that much time studying, so why not? I should do it at a, better place. Maybe actually no one asked me to do that. It's just some inner inspiration or knowing that I wanted to be at a better place. That was driving me. I was just really not happy with the research environment there. And I knew that the condition was a bit similar in other institutes in India as well. Obviously, situations can be better and worse depending upon the places. But I thought if I'm trying, shouldn't I just try for the best I can? So yeah. So I started applying for positions abroad, and luckily I landed up in doing a PhD in the UK.
That's nice. So, you mentioned about this challenge, like the environment in India for doing the research work is not that great. So, think of any one particular challenge, or what is it that you think is not the right set of environment for you to do the research in India?
So one main challenge, I feel like PhD students are paid very less in India. I think they should be well paid for the amount they do. Students do so much work, like they work beyond like 9 to 5. So given the amount of work they do, they don't get what they should be getting paid. At least that's in terms of money. And then there are other issues in terms of the research facilities in general. Sometimes it also depends upon different department and universities. But sometimes students don't get like a proper lab space, even proper guidance and support from their higher authorities. So these were the main challenges that I noticed.
So, when you transitioned to UK, what was your journey like? Like, how did you manage all your finances and how did you get to UK? And if you would like to think of any kind of a situation where you thought, okay, this is like very hard on me, I am not going to make it, I think it's better I go back. That would be a situation most of the students go through. So, did you ever feel that?
So, in terms of preparation on how I managed everything to go, it was interesting. Actually, I just because I was also doing a PhD, there. And then I was applying for another position. So the only time that I had left, apart from the research I was doing, I was spending all of that in looking for positions. So I started with looking for open positions in Australia, Europe, and the UK. I was not considering USA because it required GRE and I had no time to prepare for that. I did give TOEFL exam and then I cleared it. I was just listing down open positions where I can apply. I was looking for the web pages of different faculties or the labs topics I would be interested in working with. And yeah, I was reaching out to some of them. Some would reply and some did not. So it was a lot of work at that time, but I put my entire heart into it. I knew that I had to try my best and I wasn't expecting anything. And to different people, like the professors based in these universities, I was sending them my CV and my cover letter. Some invited me for the interview and some places accepted me without funding or partial funding. And I knew that I won't be able to go if I don't get full funding. So that was the aim. And in the UK, luckily got fully funding position. And in terms of finances from my own, I actually did not have to spend much money. PhD positions in mostly the European countries, they were free. You can just apply. You can give an interview. So that was fine. The only financial investment I made is my TOEFL exam and preparation. Everything was covered. I mean, there was 2 fundings I got. So that was the point. Like you get tuition fee, pay stipend, and then you get monthly stipend. So some universities were giving me tuition fees and not the monthly stipend. I got accepted in the University of Sheffield in the UK. Luckily, they offered me both the monthly stipend and the tuition fee. So there was nothing I paid on my own except visa charges in the beginning. Yeah.
So for someone who is actually listening to your story, somewhere from remote state or remote city in India or anywhere in the world, if they want to do their PhD abroad, what should be their initial preparation to what would be their final steps, like leading to getting a full 100% scholarship? So what will be your suggestion on that?
Yeah. So I would recommend first putting some effort into having a good CV and cover letter. And then I would recommend making a list of the open positions and the labs you want to work in, maybe. And for example, if you want to work in Germany, then you see what are the potential labs and universities or departments you could work in. You just narrow it down to what interests you. And it would be really helpful to have the topic of interest in your mind, and one should only apply for a PhD if they know that they are really passionate about learning about that topic. Yeah. So for example, I knew that I wanted to work in mathematical biology. So I was only looking for that, positions in that. I was only looking for faculties who work in that topic. One should also have at least 2-3 good recommendation, like professors who could recommend them, because that's very important in getting a new position. And even if they don't have good grades, I think they still have a chance. I would recommend reaching out first with proper intention or cover letter to faculties, as many people as possible, but not at once. Like you should not like send like 100 emails in a day. You send a few and then you see how many people respond to you. And then I think if one keeps being persistent with their effort in trying and reaching out to people, so things work out because sometimes you just get guidance. When I was applying, there were some professors who replied back. They didn't have funding, but they still guided me. You don't know where the guidance and help could come from.
When did you decide that you want to do something in your research that should be mainly focused on maths? When did your interest grew on mathematics? In fact, science in combination with maths is something that not too many people think about it.
About mathematics, like as I mentioned, that I joined bachelor's because I was a little bit more interested in mathematics. I did not really have a great passion for mathematics, but I was just like, okay, this is what I'm more interested in. And then when I was actually at the end of my master's, I started feeling that I actually like life sciences subjects and biology subject more. That time I wished had done my degrees and my schooling +2 in biology, but that was too late. So I thought maybe I can use mathematics to study some biological questions. So I thought mathematical biology would be the best option that I could go for in terms of research. So I was slowly trying to make my way into biology through mathematics. And I thought it would be interesting to solve some open biological problems using mathematics.
So basically, your love for biology has led you in this path. What kind of differences would you really be seeing?
There were many, many differences. First is in the UK or in the USA, you get more freedom what you want to do. You don't get pressurized by that deadline mostly. It depends on your supervisor mostly. I was lucky enough to work with people. My supervisors were very kind and very helpful, and they never pressurized me to like work more or work beyond the working hours. So that was one that actually plays a role for your mental health, because PhD is a long time. You spend 4 or 5 years working in that same field. So you need that kind of people and that kind of environment, because it's already stressful on its own. You don't need more pressure. Doing a PhD, I think, almost never comes without stress. So having a supportive academic and department or supervisor plays a role. So yeah, that was one big change. And I think I wouldn't be able to find that easily in India, because I have friends who did their PhD there, so I can speak for some people, not everybody. And other differences were, I think, for example, in the UK, went like this, like you have to design your own project. You have to be more independent, and you also have to worry most of your progress yourself. In India, it's like sometimes supervisors push you to do that. They can be more serious. In the UK especially, it was a bit more lenient. The aim is to like try to make you more independent, more sufficient. I felt that the research could be better. It could be more about learning, growing. I felt like in India, it was very much about like getting publications, about like creating more output, basically, like how to have a good career out of more papers or out of more research output. The emphasis is very less on what you learn. Like I felt that when I was doing the research there, and at that time I did not even have very good like correct words about it, but now I really can mention that. That was one thing which is not okay in my personal opinion. And I suddenly moved from a high pressure environment to a very low pressure environment. And in the beginning, it kind of confused me, to be honest, because when you don't know like why this is feeling so weird, but it's just different. It's not weird. It's maybe healthier. So when you're not used to working in a healthy environment, it feels weird and confusing to you in the beginning. And I really felt that when I initially moved to the UK. And especially in the UK, the emphasis was more about like what you learn. Like you learn how to do research. In Indian universities, it's like directly jumping from doing a master's to doing the research. The emphasis is very low on how to do it. Like nobody teaches you that. Yeah, in the UK, like I really like got to know that this is how one should do research. It's not about directly just creating more. It's about first learning how to create and then creating it. Yeah, and it was a bit similar in the US, I think. So I did not feel much very big differences working in Princeton or in Sheffield in terms of research. The difference is again about like country or cultural or the university level differences, but research was similar and the way research do is similar. And it's pretty similar here as well in Germany. It's more, but in Germany, like I am lucky. My supervisor is very flexible and very humble and kind. But I have heard from some colleagues that professors can be a bit rigid and a bit strict. They are not very flexible. If you don't perform well, they will just put you in the low performance category. And it's like the pressure is a bit more here compared to the UK. So if you want to categorize in terms of pressure levels, I would say India is the top most with like high pressure environment. And then I cannot speak of other European countries, but Germany would go next in my list, and then would go USA. US is also actually a very output kind of focus. They put very emphasis on how much you are creating. So yeah, and so I would rank US third. And in my experience, UK, I felt like very flexible environment.
Okay. Were there any visa issues that you faced?
UK was very, very easy. It was like super smooth. And actually, US was also not that bad. I had no issues getting a visa in any of the countries, I think. Now I'm thinking about Germany. I got my visa in US, so it was different. If you compare like difference in the easy level, like which is easier to get. It first, I think it depends majorly on what kind of visa you are getting. So for example, I know that in the US people struggle with visa issues, but I had J1 visa, which was comparatively easier to get. So that's why it was easier. Otherwise, I know that US can be a bit too difficult with the visa process.
In terms of your research, I think, do you want to tell about anything significant that has molded you into a better researcher today?
Hmm. I'm not sure about one significant turn event that like transformed me, but it was a gradual growth curve as a researcher. In the beginning, I was very impatient, especially when I joined my PhD in the UK. I came from a higher pressure kind of environment, so I thought that I was not doing enough. So I was very frustrated and anxious in the beginning. And then like after like 1 year, I slowed down, and then I was like, this is how the things are here. So nothing is wrong with me. I'm doing enough. So it took me a long time to really believe that I'm doing enough. But one thing that definitely grew in me was my patience. I I realized that sometimes things can take much longer than you think. For example, when I was in the final year of my PhD, I was dealing with this difficult code, and my entire chapter of the thesis, the final chapter, was dependent upon this output I was trying to get. And it took me several months to get that code working, to get the output from those simulations. And it was really frustrating. I really cried to sleep many times because of that, because my entire paper was dependent, like chapter was dependent on that. But then I learned that it's okay. You don't know, it's very unpredictable in research. Like sometimes it takes so much longer than you expect. So you have to be more adaptable to things going wrong, things going completely opposite of the way you think they would. So I learned more patience from that. And I think when you work in research, it's the one thing that you learn the first, that you just get used to things not working at all. First, it really irritates you. It still annoys me when I get stuck in my work. But now I have become much more okay with okay, it's okay. If this fails as well, I have to try again. So it really, more than as a researcher, I think it develops you as a person. You just get okay with things not going the way you want them to be.
So you're more resilient.
I'm more resilient to failures.
Another thing is, what are your long-term career goals? Like, where do you would like to see yourself in the future?
I recently filled out a form here in Berlin in my institute that they were asking about where do you see yourself in 2, 4, and 6 years. And I did not think I answered that well, because I have so many things in mind. Currently, I like research, I like studying, and I like working on my own timing and kind of terms. I think I have become a bit spoiled in that. So I really like the flexibility that academic offers. It's like you are responsible for your own career. You're responsible for how you manage your timing. So I would love to be in research. I would love to be doing research, working as a group leader position somewhere. So I see myself maybe doing that in the upcoming future years. Other than that, I also have other things in mind. I would love to teach meditation sometime. So that's one of the things that I have in mind. So maybe online, maybe in person, but I would love to teach some things that I know.
Nice. What was the longest paper that you have had? What was one of the times that you had to? I mean, I'm not sure because I'm not from that background, but typically, how long do you spend on one research paper? How long can it go?
It actually varies a lot in terms of what you do, because it actually depends so much on the topic. For example, if you're doing an experiment, and it's a long experiment that you have to wait for 8 months to get the outcome, then you definitely cannot finish the paper in less than a year. But if it's an experiment, for example, that would just be done in 2 months, then it would take less. And same goes with theory. Sometimes when you're trying to solve a very open question, which is very difficult, people have been trying to solve it for a long time, it could take years. I know people working on same one topic, one problem for 2, 3 years or more. So it's very different. And then I have seen people finishing something just within 2 months, 1 or 2 months. I have done that too. I did some paper in 2 months. And then for it took me like 1.5 years. So yeah, it varies a lot.
You also came to US, right? After completing your PhD in Sheffield University in UK. Why did you move? And
I actually did not want to move to the US. I knew that I wanted to be in research. So I knew that postdoc is my way for now. So I was looking for positions in Europe or UK or Singapore. And I did not want to go to the US only for the reason that it was too far from India. And I wanted to stay a bit closer to India in like landscape terms. But then I found this position on Twitter and I emailed the professor who was based in Princeton, and she invited me for an interview. And then when I got it, I was like, okay, this seems really good and it would be really good for my career. And I decided to go there.
so you mentioned about Twitter. So the initial opportunities that you found was from Twitter or from any different platforms?
For the postdoc positions, there are a lot of platforms. There are different websites. I don't remember the names of websites now, but people can just like simply do a Google check and they can find. On Twitter also, you should be active if you're looking for postdocs. You can find PhD positions on Twitter as well. You can follow the people you maybe potentially be interested in working with. So when you follow them and they are releasing some open positions they have. So I found my position from there.
Basically, you already had an idea, okay, this is the person that I want to work with. And you used to follow that person in Twitter. And when they posted a position, that is when you got to know.
I knew her, like what she worked on. There are so many people working in the field. I checked out her webpage and I found it really interesting.
Out of curiosity, how many people do you think are acting in the same field as yours? Mathematical biology combination, doing a research on the same field. But from networking point of view, how many people do you really need to connect with to understand what is a kind of position or any openings?
There are so many. For example, in terms of mathematical biology, I think in almost every university, you will find somebody working in that field. And in terms of networking, actually, because in PhD, people go to conferences, so they find people through that as well. But you can also get positions like postdoc positions or other research positions, even if you're not very good in networking. I don't think I was good at networking ever. I'm trying to be better.
Okay. So now after coming to US, you started working in Princeton. Did it feel any different from the UK university, Sheffield University? How did you start? Now there is a transition from India to UK, now another country. How did it go by with the transition?
Yeah, transition from India to the UK was big. Like it felt like a real transition, of course, because this was the first time I went abroad. Everything was different. But compared to that, when I moved from the UK to the USA, the difference was not that big. So it was easier transition for me in terms of how everything works out in terms of, like paperwork, visa, and some academic related document work related work. That was a bit different. Like I feel like in terms of like paperwork, UK is very efficient at that. So things are very smooth there. At least in my university, I felt that. Other transition that I felt in comparison to both places, healthcare. UK had very good and smooth healthcare plans, as you might know. In the USA, I actually never got to use much healthcare services, gladly, but it sounded very complicated. So there was one big difference in that. Both countries had their both pros and cons. In Princeton, I felt like there were many social events going on. There were more opportunities to connect with people. I had more opportunities to just network with people, learn from them. So there was so much more going on there compared to when I was in Sheffield. And maybe it was because I moved from India to the UK, but in the UK, I personally felt it was a bit difficult for me to connect with.
When you were in the Princeton University, I also know that you practiced meditation. When did you transition to meditation and what led you there?
It's my favorite question that you have asked. How do I begin? It's an interesting story on how I ended up doing meditation. I won't cover, it's a long story, so I cover everything. But I started doing meditation in last February 2025. And how I ended up there, because in 2024, I was going through very bad mental health. and I had really bad anxiety and ADHD. Things were not going well in my life. The stress levels were getting really bad, extremely bad. So yeah, at one point it felt like I worked so hard to be here, and now everything is just slipping away from my hands in some sense. And I was trying for therapy and I was looking some medicines, vitamins, whatnot, but nothing really worked much for me. So somehow I just came across some YouTube content and I thought I'm going to try meditation. And when I did it for a few days, even just in a few days, I felt something finally after a long time that gave me some relief from my mental suffering. And then luckily at the right time, I found one person. His name is Ben Smith. So he has an online school and then he also creates YouTube content. I found very helpful to me. I joined his school and from there I learned so much about meditation, what meditation is, understanding of what meditation is prior to that. So that was the main motivation behind doing it when I realized that I had a different perception of meditation in mind earlier to that. So like his teachings gave me so much inspiration and motivation to do that more. And yeah, and then I started reading more about it, and then it led me to know more about spiritualities and related stuff. It was just experience. Like when I did it more and more, the easier, the more freedom I got from my mental issues I was dealing with. I was more calm. I was more focused in my work. I was feeling that I am like my anxiety and my fears are leaving me. Since then, things have become better. So it really like helped me in every aspect of my life.
So how long do you do meditate, and what does your routine look like?
Routine look like? Okay,
Yeah.
I was not expecting that. I try to meditate every day, but there are some days when I'm sick or I just find no time. But every day I try to connect with myself and sit in meditation. So I aim for about 1 hour every day. And most of the days I'm successful to do that. But there are some days when I don't do it. And my routine, I wouldn't say I have an ideal routine, but I wake up and then freshen up. I try to do meditation first before going for work. So yeah, that's one important routine, part of my routine that I like to follow. And sometimes when I don't do it in the morning, in the evening before sleeping, I try to do that.
What has been one habit that you think should a student develop to be able to transition on from different phases, like be it from this childhood to getting into their masters and then to transition to, like, what can be your suggestion on to anyone?
Like from my personal experience, I feel like I used to be the person who was very hard on herself and who took things, especially like career, very seriously. You should always prioritize your mental and physical health being, because if you don't have that, then there's no point in achieving anything in life, really. And if you come from a place of balanced and grounded version of yourself, you can actually enjoy whatever you are doing, your work, your studies, your achievements. So I would really suggest like everybody to be more self-aware and do some self-reflection of how they feel inside and sit with yourself and connect with your inner self and try to find ways in which you are not being honest with yourself. And I would really suggest everybody to prioritize your well-being over anything else, and doing something which you really like is very, very important. So students mostly run after, getting success more quickly, getting jobs more quickly, achieving things quickly. And we often forget the journey has to be fun and which grows you as a person. So that should also be the aim. Sometimes it's just really bad for us when we do things just for societal expectations and we are not really enjoying them. They are not really aligned with our true self. So yeah, I feel like one should often ask themselves that if they are really doing what they are really interested in.
So when you decided how did your parents take this? How did it feel on your family? What was their response?
Especially when it was my first time, like when I wanted to move to the UK, I thought I was very scared at that time that like my family wouldn't support me. But when I talked to my family and I told them that this is how important that is and how that would shape my career, everybody was supportive. So I'm glad that I had support at that time. And it was same when I wanted to move from UK to the US. My family Like they had their concerns and they expressed what they were worried about. But when I told them that this is important, they
As I understand, you're coming from UP. So the situation there would be prominence for settling down faster rather than education first. So was that your situation? Was that the same thing with your family? And what was your parents' biggest concern?
I think their biggest concern was me moving too far away from them, and they knew that they won't be able to like come easily. So they were more concerned about my safety and not knowing how things work abroad. I was the first one from my family to move abroad or work, study abroad. So it was a very big change. So one big concern I think for them was about my safety.
Uh, when you were in US, you had to move out of US and again working in Berlin. So what led you there?
I had funding only for 2 years in Princeton. And then, as you might be aware, in 2025, there were huge funding cuts. So things were like completely different than they used to be. And researchers all over the country, they were struggling to find anything. There was a big transition. People moved from US to other European or, other countries to continue their research. And I was also affected by that. And I was not expecting that. I knew that maybe Princeton would be out of my funding, but I thought it would be easy for me to find another postdoc in the US. But yeah, it was just a bizarre time. But I like my research here, I like my lab here. It was more about I'll have to lift country, like get another visa to a different country. So that was more of my concern. Yeah, but in terms of research, it doesn't really matter that much if I'm at a Ivy League or if I'm at another research institute.
Funding was the main reason that you had to move out of the US. And what is a big learning paid from a Sheffield University or Princeton or the place that you're currently working with?
I feel one big learning about working in these different countries is that there is no perfect country. There's no one perfect place. It's not like you will go there and you'll have a perfect life. It should like the decision of where you want to be. It should be more about like what you want to do. Because yeah, like country, I don't know if there's anything such as perfect. So, but I personally learned a lot by working in these different countries. You get to know more about culture, more about how people work, how administration and a little bit about politics, like how things work in different countries, how different people can be across different parts of the world. And you learn as a person and you also become more not flexible, but like it develops patience in you because if you're used to being in certain way, for example, I liked the way academic administrative things in UK were. And then I moved to other places. I did not have the similar experience, so I was a bit frustrated. You cannot expect things to be same all over. So you have to learn to be okay with major changes.
Adapting to the new environment is important, and learning from that adaptation plays a role in how you can live and enjoy that place. So I am sure that you had great learnings from each of the place that you have moved. And yeah, lastly, I would like to ask, if you look back onto your younger self, what is today's Prerna going to advise her?
I love that question as well. I have a lot of advice to give to my younger self because I think she made a lot of mistakes and she could have like made better choices, but that's okay. Yeah, and I also don't know if I actually go back to my younger self, she would listen or not. She would be she was very rigid in accepting like advices, but I feel like I would advise her to be more authentic and have more trust in herself and listen to her inner self. Yeah, that was if like that's actually like sounds simple, but if one can do that, they can have a life more aligned with their true self. And I did not that in the past. I was looking for I always thought that I was not enough, that I needed to do more and I needed to achieve more to feel more worthy of myself. So I would like to tell her to like not feel that way and not think that she is not enough, she's not good enough.
What is that one limiting belief that you think someone needs to overcome? It's not particularly for students.
I can speak a lot about that, but I'll keep it short. We all live from so many limited beliefs. Like speaking from a personal experience, like when I was a student, I thought that my worth sort of depends on what I achieve, what grades I get, what job I get next, what kind of papers I have, like all these things. But now at a place where I'm in my life, I feel that this is important, like what you do and what you're studying, what your research and everything. This is important, but you should not depend your worth on it. You should not do it as a place to seek, as a thing to seek fulfillment from. Real fulfillment comes from within, I think. So people should, they should work hard, definitely follow your passion, try to be your best self, but not at the cost of your authenticity, and not from a place of chasing some real validation from outside. Yeah. So that's one big limited belief. I think I had, it's very subconscious. It's more of a conditioning. You're not really aware of it, but you are just wired like that. So you keep on doing things in an automated way that society has taught you. So you really forget to listen to your true self. Yeah.
Okay. I would like to also ask maybe something about your research. It's like one significant research paper that you would like to highlight, how it has been contributing to the society.
Okay. So I can talk about the project I'm actually working upon right now, or I have recently started working upon. It's about ciliates. Ciliates are a singular cellular organism that lives in water bodies like lakes, and they are important for aquatic food web. They are like micromanagers of lakes and other water bodies. I'm excited about that because this is the first time I'll be doing some experiment, some real experiment. So far, I have only worked on theoretical topics. And in this topic, I'll be looking at how these organisms, they grow. They defend themselves from predators in the lakes and other water bodies. And so I'll be observing them in the lab. And I'll also be developing a model to know so much about how they grow, how they evolve different kind of defense mechanisms. So to environment, I guess it's important because these small creatures, they play a big role in maintaining the health of lakes. And without them, many plants, other phytoplanktons, algae, they won't have any food. So it's important for these species to survive and thrive. So I'm excited to work towards understanding them better so we can contribute to better health of water bodies.
So, how is maths actually contributing on this project, Prerna?
For the experiment part, there is not much mathematics I'm using, and we are just designing an experiment right now. We haven't really worked upon it, but it's very much in progress to start with. How I'll be using mathematics is that I'll be developing a model. So I'll be using differential equations and some theoretical evolutionary methods. So I will be combining mathematical modeling, like equations, and some evolutionary theory that people have developed currently in the past. And then I'll be modeling a population of these organisms. So different equation will be modeling this is the population of ciliate, this is the population of the predator that feed upon them. So yeah, so creating a model basically.
That's it's interesting and exciting as well. So, yeah, I wish you good luck for all your papers and research that you have been doing and significantly contributing to the society. How does OTHRA, or if you want to shed life into some other person's path, then how does it relate to you?
In terms of bringing light into others' life, to me, it means that somehow bringing them closer to their authentic self. It sounds very simple, but I think it's very powerful if one can really live with that. So it's not about fixing anybody or helping them. Everybody is so powerful and so strong on their own. The only difference is just being aware of that. So when you make somebody aware of how much powerful they are, in a humble way, that I think is very powerful. That I think is bringing light. If you make somebody aware of their own light, I think that would be the best thing.
It's awesome way of putting it across. Thank you so much for being here, Prerna. I had a really great conversation with you, understanding your journey and getting beautiful insights about your transitions, and then learning about your movement and learnings that you have had in your own life. So, thanks for being here on my podcast channel and sharing your inputs. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Shravani. I had a lovely time talking to you. And I really hope that this conversation reaches the right people and would be used to some people. And I'm sure that you are going to bring so much light into this world through this platform. And I'm so grateful that you considered me as a guest on your platform. So thank you so much for having me.